My GPS sent me to a town called Nowhere, Nevada 3 months ago, and according to every device I own, I never left. If you've ever felt like your navigation app was taking you somewhere you didn't agree to go, hit that like button right now, because this story is going to change how you trust technology forever. If you're here, you know something's wrong with the roads at night. Subscribe and turn on notifications because we're uncovering the places that exist between the lines on the map. I never believed in anything supernatural until late October when I was driving from Las Vegas to Reno. I'm a software engineer, I work with code and logic, but what happened on Highway 375 broke every rule I thought governed reality. I wanted to avoid the main interstate because of an accident, so I pulled up my GPS and asked for an alternate route. The screen loaded, then displayed a path through Highway 375, the extraterrestrial highway near Area 51. The GPS estimated I'd save 40 minutes, so I confirmed and headed north. The first hour was normal. Desert landscape, occasional gas stations, a few cars. The sun was setting, painting the sky that deep orange you only get in the desert. I had a podcast playing and was relaxed, just following the blue line on my phone like always. But then, something felt off. The road wasn't quite where I expected it to be. Turns came half a second earlier than the GPS announced them. I kept glancing at my phone and everything looked correct, but my gut was screaming that I'd made a wrong turn without realizing it. The sun had set and the darkness was absolute. No streetlights, no other cars, just my headlights cutting through the black. I turned off the podcast to concentrate. That's when I noticed the mile markers going backwards. I passed marker 47, then 3 minutes later marker 51, then 49, then 46. It made no sense. I pulled over, hands shaking, and checked the map. The GPS showed me exactly where I should be on Highway 375, about 60 miles from my next turn. But when I zoomed out, I noticed something disturbing. The road should have had 3 towns along it, Hiko, Rachel, and Warm Springs. But I hadn't passed through a single town. Not one building, not one light, nothing but empty desert for 90 minutes. I tried to rationalize it. Maybe I'd missed the towns. Maybe they were too small to notice. The GPS had never lied before. I put the car back in drive and continued forward. About 10 miles ahead, I saw something that shouldn't exist. A town appearing suddenly as I crested Rise. There were lights, street lamps illuminating a main street with buildings. Relief washed over me. As I got closer, I saw a green highway sign. Nowhere, Nevada, population 1,247. I'd never heard of Nowhere, Nevada. I'd researched this route and not once had anyone mentioned it. But there it was, real, with lights and buildings. I should have kept driving. Every instinct told me to blow right through, but I was curious. I took the exit, and the moment my tires touched the town's pavement, my GPS went haywire. The blue dots started jumping around the screen, showing me in Nevada, then Utah, then the middle of the Pacific Ocean. The arrival time changed from 40 minutes to 14 hours to unknown. I had no idea where I actually was anymore. The town looked normal at first. Gas station, diner, small shops. But the gas station's price sign showed regular unleaded at 47 cents per gallon. The diner advertised meatloaf dinner for $2. The parked cars were from the 50s and 60s, covered in dust with flat tires, like they'd been sitting there for decades. But the streetlights were on. The diner's windows glowed. Someone was maintaining this place, even though it looked abandoned since the 1950s. I parked and sat there, debating whether to go inside. When I looked in my rearview mirror, the highway was gone, just flat desert where the road had been, as if the exit had sealed itself behind me. Listen, I need to ask you something. How many times have you experienced something like this and kept it to yourself because you were afraid no one would believe you? Comment below. I've experienced something like this and kept it to myself. You don't have to explain. Other people will read it and realize they're not alone. I walked into the diner because I had no choice. The bell chimed. The interior was pristine, with red vinyl booths and chrome stools. A chalkboard menu listed coffee for a nickel, hamburger for 35 cents. But there was no one there, just empty booths and oppressive silence. I walked into the kitchen, spotless. On the wall was a calendar showing October 1952, with dates crossed off until October 23rd. Today was October 27th, 2024. I pulled out my phone to check the date, but the screen was frozen on the GPS app, showing that glitching blue dot jumping across impossible locations. Nothing worked. When I looked up, I wasn't in the kitchen anymore. I was standing in the middle of the main street with no memory of walking out. The sun was rising, which made no sense because I'd only been inside for minutes. In daylight, the town looked decayed, paint peeling, windows broken, doors hanging off hinges. The gas station's roof had collapsed. The diner looked abandoned for 50 years, windows shattered, door nailed shut. I ran to my car. Locked. I hadn't locked it. My keys were sitting on the seat, and beside them was a newspaper. Nowhere Daily Register, October 24, 1952. The headline reported on a highway project to connect remote Nevada towns. I backed away, trying to rationalize this. Had to be a dream. But I could feel the cold air, smell the dust, taste the fear. Everything was too vivid. I started walking, looking for someone who could explain this. The street seemed longer now, stretching out with buildings I didn't remember, shops with names that changed when I wasn't looking. Miller's Hardware would become Anderson's General Store. Street signs changed from Main Street to Desert Avenue to Pioneer Road, letters shifting and rearranging. Then I saw dozens of other cars parked along the street, spanning decades. A Model T next to a 1970s Cadillac, next to a late model Toyota. All empty, dusty, abandoned by drivers who trusted their GPS and ended up in nowhere. In a blue Honda Civic, I found a phone showing a GPS app with the blue dot jumping around. In a Ford pickup, a paper map showed Highway 375 intersecting with roads that didn't exist, and at the center, circled in red pen, was nowhere. At the end of the street was a larger building, doors open, light flickering inside. Not electric light, something brighter, more intense. Every instinct screamed to turn around, but where would I go? The highway was gone, my car was locked. I needed answers. Inside was one enormous room with walls covered in maps, hundreds of them, floor to ceiling. Road maps, topographical maps, GPS printouts, they all showed nowhere. Every map, regardless of when it was made, had Nowhere, Nevada marked on it, always in a slightly different location, as if the town moved around the desert. In the center was a table with a guest registry. I opened it. Names, dates, notes in different hands going back to 1952. James Whitmore, October 24th, 1952. Can't find the way out. Sarah Mitchell, December 3rd, 1952. The town looks different every morning. Robert Chen, March 17th, 1968. Time doesn't work right. The most recent entry was October 19, 2024, 8 days ago. If you're reading this, run. Don't try to understand this place. It keeps you here by making you curious. The moment you stop looking for a way out and start trying to figure out what nowhere is, you're trapped forever. I grabbed a pen and wrote my entry. Today's date, my name, my arrival time. Then, the GPS brought me here. I think nowhere inserts itself into navigation systems. Don't trust your GPS on Highway 375. If you see an exit for Nowhere, Nevada, keep driving. I closed the book and turned to leave, but the door wasn't there. The wall was solid. I found 3 different doors, one labeled entry, one exit, one with no label. I chose the unmarked door. On the other side was my car in an empty parking lot under noon sun. Keys in the ignition, phone working normally, everything looked like nothing had happened. I got in and drove. Within 5 minutes, I saw Highway 375 and nearly cried with relief. I'd escaped. I drove for hours, passing through real towns, seeing other cars, watching desert give way to mountains. I made it to Reno, attended my conference. 3 days later, drove back to Vegas on the main interstate. I tried to forget about nowhere, convince myself it was a hallucination. But last week, I looked at my photos from that trip and found something I didn't remember taking. A photo of the registry book. I could see my entry clearly, my warning. But there was another entry below mine, one I hadn't seen, dated October 28, 2024. Nowhere doesn't let you leave. It lets you think you left, but you're still here. Check your GPS. Where does it say you are right now? I opened my GPS app, hands shaking. The app loaded, showing my location. At the bottom of the screen, Nowhere, Nevada. I looked out my window. I'm in my apartment in Vegas. I can see the Strip, hear traffic below. But according to my GPS, I'm still in nowhere. I've tried other apps, different phones. They all say the same thing. And I'm starting to notice inconsistencies. My apartment looks right, but furniture is in different positions. My neighbors' names keep changing. The view from my window shows buildings that aren't there. The Stratosphere Tower on the wrong side, mountains a different shape. Yesterday, the grocery cashier called me by a name that isn't mine, and when I corrected her, she showed me my credit card with that different name on it. I don't know if I ever left nowhere, or if nowhere is bigger than I thought, something that spreads and absorbs places and people. My GPS still shows me there, and every night I hear that bell from the diner chiming softly in the distance. If this story disturbed you, hit that like button and subscribe, because I've been getting messages from people all over the country who say they've found nowhere on their GPS. I'm starting to think this is bigger than anyone realizes. Subscribe now and let's find the truth about the places we never agreed to go.